Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and yes, I know it's not exactly news that Boris Johnson is a pretty lazy Prime Minister, but he really can't be bothered with anything, can he? In this video, I'd like to discuss how baffling his response to the floods and coronavirus has been, especially when they could hit his Brexit plans pretty hard. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. Okay, Phil, I hear you cry. I know that idiot woman on the telly last week tried to blame the floods on the EU, but you can't seriously be saying there's a link between the floods and the coronavirus and Brexit yourself. Well, no, not exactly, but they do impact one another. Take the floods, for example. The government refused to access EU funding to help with the emergency a few years ago, presumably for fear of looking like right tits by asking the EU's help when we just told them to sod off in the Brexit referendum. Even more recently, an emergency situation requires what is known as a Cobra Meeting in the UK. So this is what happens. An emergency hits, could be anything, floods, terrorism, whatever. The Prime Minister chairs a Cobra Meeting. And what it is, it's a meeting of various agencies so that they can coordinate their response and bring as swift an end to the crisis as possible with as little harm to British citizens as possible. Boris Johnson just couldn't be asked to do this. That meant that the flooding caused more damage than should otherwise have been the case had all the agencies been able to coordinate in this manner. So how does this impact Brexit? Fairly simple. Brexit is going to knacker the economy. I mean, a soft Brexit would have just suppressed it, but Johnson's hard Brexit will completely snooker it. To try and combat this, Johnson is planning on a massive spending spree on infrastructure. Most unlike a Tory Prime Minister, and would be welcome if I thought he was genuinely going to pull it off. The problem is that his spending plans have no margin for error. Economists were quick to point out exactly what the situation was before the general election. They said, first of all, you won't be able to reduce taxes. You're probably going to have to raise taxes to afford all this, and you have got no margin for error. So if there's any emergencies occur, you're buggered. And just 2 months into the new year, we've already had 2 emergencies. One of which was major flooding, made worse by Johnson's laziness, and the coronavirus. Both of these don't just have the potential to negatively impact productivity and therefore the economy, but they will definitely do that. Whatever predictions were made at the start of the year, economic predictions for growth, now inevitably will overestimate the growth that we're going to enjoy. Unless, of course, something happens to unexpectedly boost productivity. But that hasn't really happened yet. In fact, with Johnson's announcement last week that we might pull out of EU talks altogether, he hit the value of the pound again. And the coronavirus is a double hit in itself. It's going to affect the global economy due to the temporary shutdown of factories in China, which of course produce so much Western goods. That will negatively impact all major economies, including the UK. But the UK itself could face a significant downturn in productivity, as might anywhere else, if the virus becomes more widespread. But at least the British government are doing all they can to contain it. Well, no. In an act of continued laziness, Boris Johnson has also been asked to hold a Cobra meeting for this emergency, for the coronavirus emergency. His response, can't be asked. Can't be asked, at least not till next week. Leave it till next week. He just doesn't understand the nature of emergency. He'd be in charge of a nuclear plant undergoing a meltdown and then tell them he'll get around to looking at the problem after the weekend. So, without even considering the moral aspect of making worse a situation that has the potential to kill many more Britons than it already has, because morality has no impact on Johnson, no point making that argument, just the economic argument. The impact on the economy of his indifference is baffling, because all the evidence suggests that he's fully well aware of the economic damage that Brexit is going to cause, and equally keen to ensure that he counters this as much as possible with his spending plans. So then, why make an economic problem, which has nothing to do with Brexit, much worse through inaction, when our economy is already stagnant? The slightest thing will send it into recession, and then all of his talk of a booming economy will ring hollow for even the most blinkered of supporters. When an emergency occurs, the Prime Minister is supposed to act immediately. Immediately. This has been the second emergency in as many months, and he has been tardy both times. Imagine how much damage this idle beggar is going to have done by the end of the year, without even considering his more energetically inspired damage by Brexit. Or Is he, in fact, just welcoming natural disasters so that he can blame them for the economy tanking to divert attention away from Brexit? You know, in 2021, when we're, as a nation, a shell of our former selves, is he going to be saying, oh, this has nothing to do with Brexit, it's the EU's fault, it's the floods, the coronavirus, it's those poison monkeys that invaded us in the summer? Ooh, you're not supposed to know about that yet. Oh dear. The Illuminati are not going to be happy with me. But anyway, hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.